Today, my guest is Kyira Wackett, and Kyira is here to talk about shame around sustainability and many other things. But that was kind of a subject that really got my attention because it's something that I am very conscious about with conversations that I have with folks that I know. Anyway, Kyira, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm psyched about this.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for accepting my proposal of I want to go here and being like,
Yeah.
yes, I want to go here with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that most of my conversations are like superficial or anything, but it's just,
No.
they're like, I do this and I do this and I do this and everything's so great. And then, but there's also like real life that happens in between, and what people don't see is, it's like the Instagram thing. Like everyone
Yeah.
is so perfect on Instagram, but it's not always necessarily like that.
hmm
But so Kyira, what exactly is it that you do? You said that you're a coach and a therapist.
Yes. So I am a licensed mental health therapist. And really, what happened is I had a kid. A week and a half later, it was COVID. Our life kind of turned upside down. I was working really heavy in the eating disorder and the trauma sector, and that was just burning me out. I went back to seeing patients. There was sort of this gift of everything being virtual at the time. So my mother-in-law was with my daughter, and I would like breastfeed and then run in and have a session and then go back and I breastfeed and then I put her down for a nap and then I'd run in for a session, and it was functional at the time. But I think the new momness, my own trauma of going through this pandemic, being very alone as a mom. My husband is an emergency medicine physician, and so that was a different layer of stress kind of in the early parts of the pandemic, especially. I realized that being in the therapy room, the depth and the degree to which I want to show up and work with and alongside somebody, I couldn't do it with that acuity and have it be sustainable. I was going to burn out. I wasn't going to be able to show up in the way that I wanted to. And so I maintained my licensure so that I am still at that highest level. That means that I have to follow all those ethical codes and guidelines that a licensed therapist would have, because coaches don't all have to follow that. There's no overarching regulatory body for coaching. There are some ethical codes that exist,
Mm.
but to me, it kind of puts me in a different level of saying I still maintain this. And then I do a lot of teaching and training for other therapists. But now the one-on-one work I do is under the coaching umbrella. And really, the difference is just therapy, we're going a bit deeper. We're doing a lot more processing. Coaching, we're doing a little bit more of the directive. What's behavior change look like? We're still processing. I mean, my whole jam is shame, was we're going to find out in here. I want to talk about the fear that we all have that we are not good enough, that we are unworthy of love, connection, and belonging. So there has to be processing, but the acuity is just a little bit less intense. And that really allows me to go deep, but at a level that's sustainable for me.
Mm. Yeah, I imagine that is just so heavy. That's a super heavy subject.
hmm Yeah. And realizing too that, again, the goal is everybody can go in hot. We can do 110,000% for a very short amount of time. I think about this with a fitness class that I'm in, and there was a really long metabolic conditioning portion where the goal was to stay in a zone 3 heart rate for
Mm.
this extended period of time. And there were people that were doing the workout that were blowing through it, definitely getting their heart rate up all the way in like a zone 4, zone 5, which is like your max heart rate point. And I hear my ego going, you should be going faster. They're beating you. And then going, but the goal is to stay here. And I think it's something we all struggle with a little bit, is being able to say, well, no, this is where I thrive, because we are conditioned to believe that we should always be doing more, taking more on, and sort of existing on the brink of burnout. There's like almost something sexy about it, but that's not sexy to me. I don't want to exist in that space, and I don't want to continue to scale things in a way that says, well, I'm just doing this. No, I'm doing this and I'm kicking ass here at 100% that's sustainable. And when I need to give 80, I give 80. When I can give 120, I give 120. But this is a choice that I get to make. And I think doing that and making that shift was a lot of my own shame healing and realizing that I'm allowed to make the best choices for myself and trust that versus anchoring my self-worth on how everybody else views and sees me, which is what most of us have been conditioned to do and feel the need to kind of hinge our worth on.
Yeah, and compare to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Oh my gosh. And I know that in the sustainability area, there are so many. I mean, I'm finding that as doing this podcast, like there are so many different ways that you can be sustainable. There are
Mm-hmm.
billions, and that's why, I thought that this was a good subject because everyone has a voice, everyone has a story. And I don't feel like anyone should be left out because even, there are so many um there are a lot of podcasters that say I only talk to like, six-figure people, whatever. Like I only talk to CEOs or whatever. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You are talking to people with money. That's awesome. But what
Cool.
about these
Yep.
people? Like these people have just as valid a story and have
Mm-hmm.
just as much passion. And then there's the whole like, so many things in sustainability, like, oh, I'm going to put solar panels on my entire property, or I'm going to buy the most expensive, electric vehicle and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
all these things. Everyone can't afford to do that. Like, so that,
Mm-hmm.
there are some areas where people might feel less than in the sustainability. Like I'm not able to be sustainable because I don't have lots of money. And,
Right.
and that's what, the purpose of this podcast is. It's not necessary because we all have something that we can give.
When I think one of the interesting things too is as you're talking about that, the idea that I started writing down sustainability has become sort of a narrow scope of understanding the world too. So even when we bought our house last March, we the house was in like really great shape, but we had a lot of the like the furnace, the water heater, the AC. So we have two water heaters, two furnaces, one AC. Every single one of those pieces of equipment was at least 20 years old. So we knew we were going to be upgrading. Unfortunately, literally the day we moved in the dead of a terrible winter in Portland, we had to get a new furnace. And so that one
Wow.
sucked because that was like we
Right.
need heat.
Well, an emergency call, right?
Yes, exactly. And so the decision making was a little bit less of like, I'm going to weigh all the options and more, I just need to make sure that my, at the time, 3-year-old is safe and can be okay. But as we started to have to make some other choices, I was kind of checking and I saw one of the water heaters was having a little bit of rusting and like some little bits of leak. I'm like, great, let's change this now because it could be 6 months or another year, but also like I could have a basement flood. So let's do this now. And when I was meeting with somebody to talk about decisions, do we go gas? Do we go electric? Do we do instant heat? There's all this, the government gives you rebates for doing these things, and here's this, and here's these sustainable options. And he was actually breaking down for me, now we have this idea that not using anything gas oriented is the most sustainable solution. But we also don't think about some of the other things like what is the cost of electricity on the environment? What is the impact of those things? Sometimes it just feels like, well, this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer. The idea that we came up to with this water heater specifically was we actually don't use it very often because it's connected to a part of the house that it's only for the kitchen sink, the dishwasher, guest bathroom, and the washer and dryer. And we don't run our washer and dryer on hot
Right.
water. So it's really just like the dishwasher and then washing your dishes in the sink. And he's like, the cost of actually running the electricity to keep some of these things at a certain basis and what it will be is actually more energy waste than this other option. And it was so interesting to me. My mind was like fucking blown. I'm like, wait a minute, but gas is the wrong like
Right.
I am
Gas is
hurting
a
the
bad
earth.
guy.
Yeah, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, let me actually show you because environmental sustainability is really important to me. And we're like walking through all this. I'm like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown. And I think about that idea, like you mentioned, it's I've got to have the solar panels, which like good fucking luck. That's tens of thousands of dollars. I thought we were gonna do the same thing. I was like, we're gonna be a solar panel family. And yeah, maybe one day. That is not
Okay.
like I'm
Not
just
right now.
gonna buy a reusable bag. And so it's realizing like there is so many different ways to do it. But I think we've narrowed it down to the point where you can get an A in sustainability, and that's the goal. So, like a C level student was still equally worthy, valuable, and trying, sometimes even harder than the A level student. But we've said, but the A student is the best. We're not going to compare context, resource availability. We're just going to say if you can't be an A, then you might as well not show up because you don't matter.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, and I think that it happens so much that people
Yeah,
are like, well, I can't afford to have these things. So I'm a loser in sustainability. I'm just not as good as other people. And
right.
it's not the case at all.
Which probably that's a really good indicator to anyone that has that thought of you're doing this in other areas too. You're probably comparing yourself, whether it's your body image and your appearance, your success in the workplace, or if you are a homemaker and your thoughts around how clean your home looks because the expectation you have on yourself, if that's your quote unquote job, or how much you're doing X, Y, and Z. And I think a lot of those social ladders of comparison are really the feedback loops that keep shame going and perpetuate that hustle culture. And I think one of the things that I think about, a good friend of mine, gosh, 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago now, became a vegan and talked a lot about the decisions that he had and how he came to that decision. And both of us talk about, I'm not vegan. I know there's value to veganism in terms of sustainability, the environment. I also know that I make different choices than he does. And both of us can feel those defenses come up in those conversations. But the thing that we got down to was when you're doing it out of shame or out of fear. So the fear of climate change, the fear of what other people are going to think, the shame of there's a right way to do it, you're always going to be hindered by that pressure and that negative self talk. What we're really thinking about is, I think the journey I'm still on with parenting, my daughter is now 4.5, is realizing every day I'm just trying to be a little bit better. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
And with sustainability, it's the same thing. You know, he gets to make these choices that feel really good to him, and he's been able to integrate. There's still choices he is not aware of that he's making that might have an impact, and then choices he doesn't make. And so both of us have really rooted into what's your value? What's your why? Because your why doesn't change based on how good you do it. Your why just continues to be the motivator to make you want to keep learning and growing and get better. And if my why is for me about wanting to have a positive impact on the world around me, then gosh, maybe today my biggest positive impact is that I put some stuff out in the compost and I used the compost, or I shared compost with somebody else, or I brought my own to-go container knowing I was going to a place that has big portions that I would want to take something home. But then you know what? I forgot my water bottle at home when I went to the gym and I had to use a plastic cup, even though it says it's reusable. I know it probably isn't fully, but there was no way I was going to make it through without access to water for an
Right.
hour. That doesn't mean I failed. And so I have to come back to my why. Okay, my why is to have the best impact I can have and I'm capable of. Today I forgot my water bottle. What did I learn? Well, the mornings are a little chaotic when I'm taking my daughter to school. And when I don't pack it the night before, it's just too easy to miss. Tonight, I'm going to make sure I pack it before I go to bed. And how good is that I learned? And guess what? There's going to be another day I forget it and I'm still going to be okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Totally. Yeah. I mean, we put so much pressure on ourselves, and there's a I know I've said this before with other people, but I just saw the post today, I think. Alexa, Go Green with Alexa just posted it. It was like, we don't need, 7 people doing everything sustainable. We need, millions of people doing
Mm-hmm.
something, doing the best that we can. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be perfect in sustainability. We just need to be doing something.
Well, and has there ever been a person that's published like this is what a perfect, sustainable, climate aware person would do and be?
What even is that?
Yeah, like I'm starting to survey it in my head and I'm like, we'd have to redo our entire system of functioning. If we're really talking about the A plus, we would have to revert back to ways of living where we are not traveling. We would have to say, you know what? I'm not going to go see family and friends in other countries. I'm not going to go take an airplane because it uses too much fuel. I'm not going to, go do X, Y, and Z. I can never eat out again because I don't know what type of plastic that they bring their packaging in or what containers they have. I can never order a product. I can never order from someplace if I forgot something and I don't have the capacity to get to the store. Like to me, I think it creates this completely impossible reality, which then makes all of us just feel like trash. And so then we just are doing it from a state of shame. And again, it takes us away from our values. And so, that idea that we're all going to be perfect. I know we were talking about this a little bit offline, but basically this idea of like a spectrum of, well, there's either the perfect sustainable path and this is what you're supposed to do, or you might as well not even try. And I think we chase this side so far to get it right, to do it all, that then when we can't hit it, we're just like, well, fuck it. Why do I even try? One person can't make a difference. And it feels very similar to a lot of other things that we have, whether it's voting or being a part of a community. Like we have this idea of either it has to be this change or I am too small to make a change. And like you said, it's a million people making one change a day would have a much greater impact than 7 people doing it all the time.
Right. 100%. Oh my gosh, yes. And I just think that we need to, it's so hard, with all the news going on, with climate change. And I know you were saying that it's like such a source of anxiety for you.
Yeah.
And it is for a lot of people. I know I had a climate change coach on the podcast, and I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That we're just like, it is just too big. It's too big. Like, where do I even start? And then, is it too late?
Yeah.
Just have to stop thinking about that and just do something.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I remind myself, and I can't remember it in every moment of every day, is that unfortunately, human beings are fear motivated at the highest level.
Mm,
That is the biggest thing that motivates us. And so marketing is one of the key ways to get somebody to care. And so whether it is either it's got to be reward based or it's got to be fear based. And so with climate change, it has to be fear driven. It's the same as any nonprofit. They are going to lead with the problem and the pain so that you either have fear or you have such a depth of pain and empathy. You're just like, I need to do something in some way, shape, or form. And so also recognizing that if the idea, like I follow a couple different Instagram accounts where it's like the good news
yep.
daily, basically, of like, let me tell you about all the really positive things that have happened for the environment. And even I think it was, I don't think it was the Planet Earth, but it was one of the ones on Netflix where they even showed, they had a whole episode about what happened the first year of COVID and actually positive effects on the environment and animals and all of that.
Right.
But if we get too much of that information as human beings, it's the same thing I see as in therapy practice all the time. When I was in my master's program, all of my professors would basically be like, and be prepared. As soon as a client starts to get a little relief, they're going to suddenly stop coming because they go, I'm fine now. I feel a little bit better. The tension's gone. The fear and the pain has been alleviated enough that they think I'm fine. And I think some of the things, like there's a balance point. We need to take this seriously. We need to invest in it. We need to learn. I think it's a collective responsibility. And I think also being aware that part of the way that the information is delivered is based on the psychology of the only way to get people to sustainably be invested in something like this, which is that you have to keep us a bit afraid, or else we're going to go, I don't have to care about that anymore.
Right.
And if anyone is going, well, that's not true, think about a major event that's happened in the last year. I can think about at least 2 or 3 where in the beginning you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And you're watching all about it. And then you get normalized to it and you stop investing in the same way. And so it has to be big, bold, and scary to keep you invested and putting the work in, because unfortunately not everybody is like, this is important, or maybe not yet is considering it that way.
Mm. That is so true. That's so true. And sorry, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, I had this like back of the mind thought that I forgot to turn my mic off. So it's like fumbling, trying to be cool. Like, is it on?
Yeah. I like it. I didn't think any, I thought maybe you were doing your volume where I was like, maybe you're trying to take a different angle,
Yeah.
just to like mix it up,
Yep.
just whatever that is. So I like it.
Oh my gosh. But this is also, it's also good, and it's also, it feels so, it's such a personal thing. And for me, even like and when you're talking in the beginning, I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me.
Hmm.
Um, and so we all feel some of that. And so it's a good reminder for us to know that it's not, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling shame, like it's it's not necessary. We don't need to be so hard on ourselves. We just need to
Hmm.
give a little bit of grace, right?
Hmm. And I think, one of the things that we know can really help with that when you're stuck in those headspaces, just a little thing that you could do every day is to invite two reflection questions. And are going to sound so simple, and they are also incredibly difficult. The first is, what are you grateful for today? So when the world is ending, everything is terrible, everything sucks, we're looking for confirmation bias of that. And so gratitude helps expand beyond our own ego-centered story of like, everything's happening to me, my life is terrible. But it also helps kind of neutralize the way that our brain is viewing the world. So, what's something that you're grateful for today? The second thing you can do, and if we're thinking specifically about sustainability, is what's one thing you're proud of yourself for today? And so, like a thing I didn't even connect it to for, I mean, years. And I made this decision originally to use less water. So I don't know why I didn't, but I have very, very thick Middle Eastern hair. It's like thicker than a horse's tail. Like I have a lot of hair, but each strand is like I could probably suspend a boat to the back of my car and drive and it would hold it. Like it is so strong. Washing my hair takes like 25 minutes because I have to shampoo it twice to get actually all the hair touched. And then I have to leave conditioner in so long because it takes forever to like actually penetrate the hair follicle or I guess the hair strand, not the follicle. That's a lot of time in the shower. That's a lot of water. Not to mention, I have a propensity to want to lay down in the shower because it's warm and it's comfortable. And I just like really want to do that. And so I'm like, gosh, I could just hang out here. When I was in high school, I used to literally fall asleep in the shower in the morning. So I would just lay down and my grandma would have to come in and be like, you got to go. This is not okay. And so now I made this choice of like, if I'm just washing my face and my body, 5 minutes tops. I even switched to an electric razor because, again, Middle Eastern hair, I am fucking hairy. Like my legs are so hairy, takes forever to shave them. Great, switch to an electric razor. I don't need to be in the shower that long. So a shower now for me is about 5 minutes, except for every 7 to 10 days when I wash my hair. So some days, my like sustainability win, I didn't wash my hair today. Like
Right.
that is, I might have still grabbed a plastic straw and used that cup and ordered something from Amazon, which I know is polluting the earth, and did some other random thing. But you know what? I didn't wash my hair today, and I'm going to take that as a win because I saved 25 minutes of running water, and that's something.
Yep. I'm the same way, actually. Usually my showers are like 3 minutes. Just
Yeah.
do what I need to do and get out, and then when I have to wash my hair, it's same.
Yeah.
10 minutes. And I feel bad about the amount of water, but also like I said this before with another person, but I have super sensitive teeth, and so I can't just like brush my teeth with cold water. I have to
Get warmer.
let
Yeah.
it get warmer, and I feel so bad. I'm glad I don't live in the drought states, but
Hmm.
I still feel bad. It's just something that I'm very aware of, but at the same time, like it hurts too much to use cold water on my teeth.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a deep conversation. I think this is a really helpful. It's helpful for me anyway. I hope that it helps.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a big part of it is just realizing shame is an emotion. So if anyone hasn't seen Inside Out, go watch Inside Out 1. I don't know when 2 is going to be out to watch, but the idea of like we have emotions and they serve a purpose, and shame is a subset of fear. It is trying to protect us. And there is this sort of connection to the collective of our fear around what's happening in the environment and the shame that we feel that we are supposed to be doing more. And there is this tiny tinge of it that I think is really helpful. It's gotten a little bit misguided and gone a bit too deep because I think then it stops us from really being able to show up in the ways that we want to. But it's recognizing that it is there and thinks it's being helpful. We just need to temper it to be like, okay, how do I switch it over from shame, I'm a terrible person, to guilt? I did something bad. I did something I don't like. I did something that doesn't feel good for me. Okay, great. How do we shift that? What does that look like? And then starting to accept that nobody is coming in to give you a report card. Nobody's going to ask you, you know, any of those things.
Doing like a pearly gates question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be there. This is not what it is. And that's not the human experience. You would be so bored if you could achieve perfection. It's just not a thing. We cannot do it. We're incapable of it, and our brains would just melt because we don't want that. We need something to strive for. And so instead of it being this race to being perfect, going, how can I continue to be excited about the learning, the growing, the process of making meaningful and sustainable changes in my life that connect to my why, that aren't about trying to show other people that I'm doing this perfectly.
Right. Right. And I know we were talking about this before we started recording, but like I've had, because I have this sustainability podcast, I've had friends and family who are like, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, please don't be mad. Like I totally use plastic or, whatever." And
Hmm.
I'm so not judging.
Yeah.
Not judging. And I am no one to judge.
Hmm.
I am not a perfect person. I'm not super sustainable person. I just
Yeah.
curious and I love the subject.
Yeah. And want to learn, and want to keep getting better. I have in the same scope where it's someone hears that I'm a therapist and then they're like anxious about if I'm going to judge the way that they communicate or their pain points or problems. Or I've had friends of mine, they're like, I just need you to be here to parent my kids all the time. You're so good at it. I watch you interact with your daughter. I watch these things. I wish I could communicate like you. And it's like, I think that there are certain skills that I've worked really hard to cultivate. One, that's my profession. Two, again, if we go to values, that's a value for me. I want people to feel seen, safe, and heard. And I work really hard to cultivate that for myself and others. I also don't do it all the time. Sometimes I'm a big major dickhead and I get it completely wrong. And there are times I literally can hear what's coming out of my mouth to my husband. And I can't, probably it's more that I choose not to stop it probably in that moment than I can't stop it. But like, I am not helping him feel seen, safe, and heard. I'm just trying to be right. And I have that to win. Or times that I lose my temper with my daughter and she's 4.5 and she's doing the best she can. But sometimes can you just put your fucking shoes on and get out of the house? Like that is just life. And so I think a big part of it of realizing that with this, we don't know if we're doing the right thing. I think back to, gosh, in my lifetime alone, fat's been bad and then it was good. Sugar was bad and now it's good again, as opposed to artificial sugars.
Right.
Thinking about what types of protein we're eating. Carbs were good, then they're bad, then now they might be good again. Protein is, well, don't eat too much of it. Now you should just eat protein.
Right.
You can have too many vegetables. This is like we are constantly changing what the rules are. And so when you think about sustainability and the earth, again, the idea that I had the perception that electric appliances is the only way to go. I had no idea that there's actually data that shows that both can do a lot for the environment. And it's about doing the research to figure out what's best for you. Sometimes making the decision to do X, Y, and Z, to not shower, to do this thing, like that feels great. But I'm also like, are you never going to buy clothes again? Because unless you can actually go and research that exactly where that strand of fabric came from and what that looked like you have no idea what that means, what that does. And so I think I just go in with, how can I make the best choice how can I trust that I'm going to screw it up? And in reality, the willingness to admit that I'm screwing it up. And for you, any listener that's listening, to be like, I'm getting it wrong all the time and I'm learning, that's going to have a much bigger impact on the world around you than you chasing perfection and then inadvertently putting that same vibrational energy on the people around you too.
Right. I mean, if you are raising your energy, your vibration, everyone around you is also going to raise. Um, I'm trying to remember who said that. I heard that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we're human beings. We're all human beings. If we're not human beings, what are we doing here?
Right.
But give yourself, give everyone some grace. We're doing the best we can, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this so much. Um, oh gosh. And I know that, and I'm so glad that you have this thought about sustainability in the shame realm, because I've thought about this so much, but there's like who do I talk about that with? So I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that you like we connected, because this is a conversation that I wanted to have for a long time and I just didn't know how to like bring it up. Uh,
Yeah.
but I am like it makes me feel so bad if somebody says, I'm so sorry I use plastic or blah blah blah. Like, please don't judge me. No, I'm not judging. I'm not.
Yeah.
Promise.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm not better.
Mm-hmm. And I think recognizing too, whenever we're afraid of that, unless like somebody has specific data that you've done it before, or someone's got specific data, when you said this, when you did this, it made me feel X. Unless they have that, it's all a projection. And that's the furthest thing from what you want someone to feel, because if you feel judged, and you make a behavior change based on that, you're only doing it to save face, to win that other person's approval, in which case it's going to be temporary anyways. It's not, that's what, when our friends came out to visit, and I said, well, I'm going to cook some vegan meals. I'll make sure that I've got some stuff around the house. And he's like, I don't want you to change how you eat to make sure that I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'll get what I need. And I'm like, I completely appreciate that. And because there was that part of me that's like, gosh, should I mean, I feel bad eating a burger in front of him. And I was like, well, what feels really good to me, because we actually cook vegan a lot inadvertently, not necessarily by choice. Like when we're eating at the house, we're going to eat vegan meals. And then when we go somewhere, if I want to get a burger, I'm going to get a burger. And I'm not going to feel bad about it, because I'm not going to make this choice to appease you, because that's the wrong reason and value. And it was just this really cool opportunity for the two of us to really, and he's also in the mental health field. And so I think both of us are very cognizant
Yeah.
of, again, what's your motivating force in anything. And like that felt really good. And the same is like, if I am making a choice or if I'm doing something and someone around me is like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have to do that because you're doing it, I'd feel sad just like you. I would never want somebody to think that about me, because that's the furthest thing from my values. But I also know that that projection is usually not about me. And so going back to what we said in the beginning, that's probably a thing they carry in every aspect. People don't think I'm doing enough at work. People don't think that I am healthy. People don't think I should be wearing this outfit or that I should have done this. Like a lot of projections based on their own fears. And so if someone listening is like, I do that a lot, there's some sort of values conflict that you have internally that you have and deserve the opportunity to sort through. Okay, well, what doesn't feel good for you about that? You're using plastic. You're assuming that Amy's judging you for it, but it's a projection of what you're thinking and feeling. So, what's going on for you? Are you wanting to use less, but you're feeling a little overwhelmed? Does that not a value for you, but you feel so polarized around it now? Like, what is that for you? And how do you get to a place where you can feel okay about it? And that's the only way that we're going to get rid of some of this shame and actually make changes, whether it's about sustainability or anything else that's meaningful and collectively shifts kind of our output overall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's yeah. That's it.
you're like, and we're done.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. Uh, wow, gosh. I'm so glad that you, like I said, I'm just so glad that you've thought about this and that you have this in your brain as well. So you can, make it sound a lot better than me. Um, gosh, I just love this so much. But, so Kyra, when I say the word sustainability to you, what does that mean?
Mm. So whenever I talk about change for people, when they talk about anything they want to do behaviorally, emotionally, healing from trauma, I always talk about the two words of meaningful and sustainable change. And so whenever I think about the term sustainability as it relates to the climate, the environment, it comes through that same spectrum. So meaningful, meaning it connects to you and your values. Sustainable, meaning something that you can do for a period of time that's you can commit to it long term. So when I think about sustainability, I think about sort of two elements of that. One, the commitment being, I want to be on this earth and have a healthy environment that I can live in for a long period of time. So choices around how are we preserving that long-term ability to live, function, connect with the earth. But sustainability also from the standpoint of when I think of sustainable living, what is something I can make a commitment to that I can do for the long term? Because deciding that I'm going to never buy from Amazon again, or I'm going to boycott X, Y, and Z. It's great in theory. It's not a choice I can make long term. It's not a sustainable decision for me and the life that I'm living right now. And honestly, with the funds I have available to purchase things that might be more expensive from a different standpoint. So instead, it's going, what can I do that is the most sustainable for that environment place, that long-term impact, and that I can make a long-term commitment to? And really, when I break that down, I think about how do I then make 1% changes and integrate them until they are so automatic to me that then I can take the next 1% change.
Right.
So now I've always got the Tupperware with me because I integrated it. I made it accessible. I mean, I would put reusable bags in the car and still get the paper bags from the store every time I went in because I wouldn't grab them from the car because it was too inconvenient to go back. Now I just put my cart out and go get them. Or I have a reminder that says when you get to certain locations, my main grocery stores, it's like a geolocating reminder that says bring your bags. I can do that, but I've committed and made it so quote unquote sustainable for me that now I can take the next step. Now I can look at the next thing and I can keep mining for that in that way that I stay excited about it rather than go all in out of shame and out of fear and out of pressure. And then I burn out. And then that's not sustainable because you did it for a month and then you burnt out and you stopped doing it anyways.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's good. I remember you had said in your guest form that life isn't necessarily all or nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sustainability. Like we said before, you don't have to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
What you can, what feels good,
Mm-hmm.
but make conscious choices. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. That's
Yeah.
just good.
Yeah.
And so how, if someone is like, oh my gosh, Kyra just said everything that I needed to hear right now, how can someone follow you or find you or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, so I think the best place to go is my website, adversityrising.com. You can find resources available there. You can send me an email from there. I'm the only person that reads and answers those emails. So you get a direct link straight to me. You can also check out my YouTube channel and my podcast straight from my website. And so it kind of takes you right down that rabbit hole. On YouTube, I like to put a lot of smaller, sustainable, meaningful change videos out there for people. So the idea being kind of these micro components of building insight and meaningful action for you. And then my podcast is called Untethering Shame. And so, really, if you're just like, oh my gosh, I think shame is a bigger topic that I want to dive into, then each episode talks about a different topic, whether it's adoption, death, not having children, things like sustainability and the environment, climate change. We're tackling those. And each episode, you kind of see this continuity of how shame affects us on a broad spectrum, and then also in these very microscopic ways as well.
Wow. And what's it called again? Shame Untethered?
Untethering Shame.
Shame. Okay. Ooh. And all this is going to be in the show notes, you guys. So check out the show notes, click the links, and go find Kyira. Man. Ooh, this is so good. Um, wow. I'm just all kinds of grateful today just for the chance to hang out with you, and I feel very um like validated. Is that right? Is that the right word I want to use? But it's just these are things that I've been thinking about, and I haven't had the words. So
Mhm.
I'm so grateful to that you have words. I'm glad you have
Mm.
words.
Again, that's that practice though, that gratitude practice in the moment is something like how to expand it. And that is, I mean, I think sometimes I have that happen a lot where I've even just like a client session where somebody will put words to a thing that I have been struggling with or feeling for a long time. And I just have learned to trust that that is something about the energy in the world. I can't explain it. I'm not going to pretend that I know what I believe or how everything comes to be, but I think sometimes that's what happens is like we attract the energy of the things we need to hear, and then we're able to show up for them in different ways too. And so I think this was by being able to be on here and kind of talk through some of this, I think I needed to rehear some of this too, and to remind myself of some of these things when I start to beat myself up. And when I think about what I'm teaching my daughter about how to take care of the earth, how to take care of herself, what that looks like to be in balance with all of these things. So I'm super grateful for this as well.
Hmm. Oh my gosh. Was there anything else that you wanted to, while we have this platform, while we have this open, anything else that you wanted to share?
I think just to summarize it for people, so one, you have shame, whether it's about climate change, sustainability, or about something else, you have it because you're a human. So you are in some way, shape, or form, you've developed a rule that you're only good enough if, you're only lovable if, and that's either showing up in the choices you make, the way your body looks, how you're presenting in the world, the sort of bullet point list or the resume that somebody has about you. And so if you can make space to accept that that's a part of your experience of life, and then do some reflection, some introspection, some insight building as to how that came to be for you, what that looks like, and then give yourself some space to say, what if I didn't let that rule my decision making? What if I didn't let that take over XYZ? Whether or not I have plastic silverware, or I'm gonna go on this big massive diet, or I'm gonna try to go for this big promotion at work. What if instead you said what feels most right to me? What are my values? What are the things that are most meaningful to me, and how do I write my life around that? Again, I think that's going to have the biggest ripple effect on your own life, but also the people around you, because we can shift that energy towards self-anchoring rather than external validation.
Uh, I I just felt all of that. Like that was you have words. Uh
Thank you.
words I needed to hear. Awesome. Oh my gosh, Kyira, thank you so much for doing what you do and for being here and sharing this message with my folks. I hope that you guys are hearing this, and I hope that you're feeling this like I am right now, just so grateful for this real conversation about humanity. It was just everything for me. I'm so grateful.
Hmm.
I'm gonna stop talking now. Anyway, thank you again. I hope that you guys will check out Kyira and everything she's doing, because she's doing it for all of us.
Hmm. Thank you.